second. Jamie Conley's not here. Rick Huzzy?
Aye.
Rich Windsor?
Aye.
Randy Bonnell?
Aye.
Steve Smith, aye. Minutes approved. Coakley landfill update. Old business. Moving on to old business. Okay.
Have we had any, I got a question on the Coakley landfill. Have we had any updates from them, or?
I have one right here for you.
Oh, I love to hear it.
Okay. Well, Town Administrator Scruton and I sat in on a Zoom call, and I just wanted to read this out loud to those members of the board that weren't able to participate. And this is a letter I'm going to forward to DES. On April 14, 2021, Town Administrator Scruton and I remotely attended the Coakley Landfill group meeting to learn more about the activities and studies taking place in and around the Coakley Landfill. Of particular interest to us was the deep bedrock study and the PFOSA, or PFOSA, investigation. We were shocked and saddened by the flippant ways and topics were discussed, casually addressed by the Coakley Landfill group during this meeting. Our community has, through no fault of our own, been subject to pollution and health hazards from the Coakley Landfill, and we deserve better from the Coakley Landfill group. Executive Council member Peter Britz reminded the committee that the pollution monitoring and landfill gas testing at Coakley would continue until the results showed pollution levels near zero. Coakley Executive Committee member Seth Jaffe commented that it was very annoying and really pointless. The town of Greenland disagrees with this assertion and tests that assertion that tests and monitoring should cease before the goal of the zero pollution is reached. Striving for zero pollution from the Coakley landfill is not only not a pointless goal, but a desired outcome that we want to see achieved and believe that can be achieved. The committee then proceeded to discuss House Bill 494 and from the 2019 House legislative session. This bill directly directs the Department of Environmental Services to pursue a remedy regarding the substantial reduction of certain contaminants from the Coakley landfill. At this point, Executive Committee member Bob Sullivan stated that HB 494 says we have to implement a remedy. It didn't say that the remedy had to work. We paid for it, we implemented it, and we're done with that. What HB 494 actually states is that the remedy must ensure that the substantial reduction of contaminants entering Barry's Brook from the Coakley Landfill Superfund site. Coakley Landfill members then agreed to have their legal counsel review the bill's language to see if they'd be fulfilling the requirements of the bill by implementing a remedy regardless of the effectiveness. This way of thinking must change. Contamination still flows into Barry's Brook in Greenland at levels the DES has said are unacceptable. The Coakley Landfill group must show genuine concern about the effectiveness of the remedies and health of the public and environment. It is not sufficient for the Coakley Landfill group to be satisfied with following the letter of the law while ignoring the spirit of the law. If the remedies, or sandbags as Mrs. Sullivan referred to them, are not effective, new remedies must be tried and implemented until the pollution is removed. When it comes to the environment, our community's public health, implementing remedies that work are not pointless, it is critical. We ask that DES continue to further monitor Barry's Brook and the surrounding areas to ensure that pollution remedies being implemented are effective. Further, DES Commissioner, we ask that you encourage the Commission and the Seacoast Cancer Cluster investigation meetings to reconvene. The last meeting of this important commission was held on September 17, 2019. The work of this commission is yet to be finished and further research studies should be continued. And I will be sending that letter to the commission.
Excellent.
So things are not good in Coakley landfill groups. They're monitoring, they're doing the monitoring that they said they were going to do monitoring, and they still have yet to remedy the situation. Now, what that entails, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in bank accounts that is not being,
Well, they're paying lawyers.
to my point, not being utilized.
Yeah, he's paying lawyers.
So,
So, if we reflect back on this, right, and we talked about, the events of Coakley, and really, we saw a big groundswell under this as the PFOAs or PFOSA, is it?
yeah, that one.
Acronym soup. And so, we saw a big groundswell of activity here because it had a voice all of a sudden. And for whatever reason, the voice went away, right? Nobody's talking about it. It went away. And how do we put a voice back under this? Because the only way anyone's going to move is all of a sudden there's bad press for the Coakley Landfill Group and maybe some of the large stakeholders of Coakley Landfill.
Right.
So what do we do? How do we get a voice under this?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, other than turning up the heat, I mean,
No, I think that's
we can, that's, that's a start. We get our senators involved, our representation involved, and, yeah, continue down the road.
And you're right, Dennis is here, and so how do we do this? This is, I'll spare the expletive, but.
I agree with you, Rick. I think we're being kicked.
Dennis, do you want to comment? Representative Malloy?
Yes, thank you. I think what you stated there is terrific. Sadly, terrific. I am 100% behind this, what you've just written, because I was co-sponsor of that bill to direct the cleanup of Coakley. You'll notice in sometimes state, and by the way, that bill passed both the House and the Senate with bipartisan voting, and the governor, our governor signed that into law. This is very clear about the intent of this. I know it can be frustrating for folks to not see more specifics in a bill about how to do it, what to do it, when to do it, or when. There are wins in it. But those sometimes are left purposely open so that we can see what happens or what doesn't happen. And clearly, this hasn't happened. So I take your point, and I think I'll speak to Senator Sherman and others who are on that bill to run this again. I'm also disappointed. I'm on the Seacoast Pediatric Cancer Cluster Commission, and we haven't met. I don't know why we haven't met. The chair of that commission is pretty effective, and I think he's pretty good. But I don't know why that stalled. I honestly don't know why, and so that's another thing I have to do, and I will. So I think Steve Selectman Smith said this, that we have to ratchet, or maybe Selectman Windsor said it. It's hard to kind of tell here. You have to ratchet it up, and I will. In the meantime, the voice from the town and the selectmen stating clearly what their concerns are, which you did in this letter, is as effective or more effective sometimes than what we can do. But together we can heterodyne this and make it work. So I couldn't be more supportive of this. I want to see it fixed, and the actions that have been taken are just not on behalf of Coakley Landfill are just not adequate. Now I will add. Let me add this though, because there is both. Newington was Newington, as you will. You talked about Newington tonight, and I listened to your conversation with Newington and Ms. Parker on the seat. This doesn't necessarily affect that, but just understand that Newington is a part of the Coakley Landfill group. So any kinds of actions that we would like to see that have a cost involved in this will directly affect Newington, because they were a contributor. They were they use the Coakley landfill as a site, and they pay an annual fee to the Coakley landfill group. I forget what that is. I think it's somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 a year for keeping that thing doing what it's supposed to do. So I just would like to give you a little information there that we have a nice new relationship with Newington, and I just didn't want to. I don't want you blindsided by something like that.
So Dennis, if you go back to the bill, just because I'm not familiar, I haven't read it, what are the teeth in the bill? What is it that forces them to do it? What recourse is there?
Well, it's vague, of course, and that is one of the issues that we're dealing with right now.
How do we fix that?
Say
how do we fix that?
This
Dennis,
is to be mitigated.
Hey Dennis, how do we fix that?
Mitigated. So there is that tooth right there is to say this must be satisfactorily addressed and cleaned up.
Right. So how do we fix it and get it out of the wishy-washy land into something that actually is meaningful? Because if you send any lawyer into this bill, in all likelihood they can dance around it forever. How do we make a bill that has teeth?
We have to do our job now, and that's what I'm saying I'm going to help us do, is move this thing forward and make sure that these folks know this is not adequate, and we have to apply pressure.
So how do we define not adequate? How do we define adequate, Dennis? I mean,
well, I think
I'm going to be blunt because
today, speaking with Administrator Scruton, and I think there were still chemicals being measured out of Berry's Brook that have not been stopped. I mean, there's proof right there. I think there is measurement. Administrator Scruton, did I hear that right? Do you have
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, they exceed DES levels.
So there you have it. That's the information that we need to put forward and say this has not been cleaned up, and you have proof by the measurements that are being taken in Berry's Brook. A few sandbags placed around the bottom of this thing is not fixing it. So you have the proof.
Yep.
So we can count on you. You're going to bring that forward immediately and start to discuss that?
I'm sorry. Is that I only heard part of it. Was that a question again? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if we had your commitment that you were going to bring that information forward and start that discussion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, I'll speak with Senator Sherman in the next 24 hours, and I'll relay this conversation to him, and we'll move forward.
Yeah. Dennis, just so you know, you're CC'd on this as well as Senator Sherman and the other representatives as well that run the bill. So.
But this is a public health issue, and the DES. See, the DES is, in my view, is not enforcing this.
Right.
That's an enforcement issue with the DES, and we need to let them know that they need to enforce this.
Yep. Yeah, and it was kind of a flippant.
That's the enforcement. To get to your point, Selectman Windsor, it's the DES that has the enforcement teeth to do this, and that's what we have to do.
Yep.
So I guess, how do we make sure this gets done? I mean, would it be fair to say that, obviously you need some time to work and get things moving, but would it be unreasonable to think that, the second meeting of the month, we could get an update on status and what actions have been taken from you?
Well, I'll be working with Mr. Scruton on this, so
Yep.
that will be your real source of information. I'm always at these meetings, so I'll let you know. But I'll work with Mr. Scruton on how to keep presenting this.
And their next meeting is, I believe, May 12th. It's Wednesday.
Is that the Coakley Landfill group? Or
Yes, the landfill group meeting is May 12th.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could also note that in addition to DES, you also have EPA setting requirements for the Coakley landfill group. So there are multiple efforts. I believe the DES got brought in thanks in part to your work and Senator Sherman's legislation. However, that was a result of dissatisfaction with the way the EPA was handling it, and the feeling from a number of people that the EPA could do more to enforce, the removal of pollution. So, in addition to the federal requirements, additional state requirements were attempted on Berry's Brook, because the feeling was that the EPA requirements weren't preventing the pollution into Berry's Brook, and that was something that the state DES then could step up to enforce the Berry's Brook, which flows out of the area of the Coakley landfill. So you have multiple agencies with teeth, if you will, that could be enforcing this more at different levels.
So I guess, and I understand that, and so for me at this point, this isn't about, so we're all gonna sit at this table, we're gonna talk about this tonight. Dennis, with all due respect, you're gonna go talk to somebody and then you're gonna check a box and call it done. So I want deliverables here. I wanna know what's getting done and when. And I want regular updates.
Well,
Tell me who does it, who gives me the update. I don't want it to be when it happens. I want it a standing meeting or standing note once a month that tells me what's been done, what actions have been taken, and what results have happened.
Well, that's the Coakley board, though. The Coakley board's not delivering for us, right? So it's the people that were nominated to the Coakley board. I mean,
But
if we're gonna look for things, Rich, I think we should all go to this meeting on May 12th
the Coakley
and
board.
voice our concerns.
So, what's the Coakley board made up of? And so,
The Coakley Landfill Group is made up of, it's a board of, it's at least 3 members of of people who were either Portsmouth represented and other representatives of the people who
the polluters.
used it as a waste site.
Yeah, these are the polluters. These aren't the.
And those are the people who make up the Coakley Landfill.
Correct. And so, from their perspective, their goal is to spend as little as possible. That's their goal. Because they're not in it for you. They're in it for their bank account. Because they're responsible for the pollution. You don't have a voice as a town on that board. And so the only way you get that board to move is with pressure. And so realistically, hey, this is bigger than the small town of Greenland. And that's why I'm really looking to Dennis here to spearhead this, because this is more at a state level at this point.
Or at least it should be, and it's
Yeah.
kind of
It
falling
should
by the
be.
wayside.
As-
Falling by the wayside.
It is a state issue.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so that's why, and you'll have to excuse me, but that's why I'm forcing this issue, because it can't go by the wayside. We just watched it happen. It had a really big push, the news cycle went away, and here we are listening to this. So how do we drive action? And the only way that, my professional corporate training, drive accountability,
Yep.
you report on it, right? So, I mean, Dennis, I'm really looking at you here because, I see this as a state level. I see you as the one with the real connections into DES, as well as the rest of the governing body there. And we need your help on this, and I just want to make sure it's getting done.
Yes.
So I'll go back to that. I mean, is there any reason we can't just say now that once a month, there's a standing update you give us, what actions have been taken, and what results from those actions have come forth?
No, there's no reason that can't be done. And that would be, that's your call to have an agenda item, and we'll work with Mr. Scruton on that.
I'm asking you to deliver it,
That's
Dennis.
happened, yeah.
Dennis, I'm asking you to deliver it directly. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm asking you to be prepared to speak to that once a month.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So second meeting of the month, that sound good?
Yeah, they usually have, the Coakley Landfill Group usually meets on the second or, the third Wednesday. No, the second Wednesday of the month. So if it's our second meeting, then yeah, it would be after their regular meeting, so we'd have.
Perfect. So
They allow for public comments there, Steve?
I don't believe so, no, it's a closed
Pretty much
session,
a
but
closed
you
session.
can listen.
And a lot, if I might add, to your point, a lot is discussed in non-public as well.
Right, yeah,
A lot
basically,
Which we're not privy to. So.
if you look at their agenda, 99% of it is paying bills, which don't really amount to much, you know. They go through item by item, you know, and then they take 10 minutes to discuss, you know, what we're gonna do next and who's meeting next month, and that's about it, so.
Exactly.
Not a whole lot of stuff gets done at any of the meetings.
Is there value in that letter going to some of the local papers as an op-ed?
Oh, I think it might find its way to a
Excellent,
couple of outsources
excellent.
who will remain nameless. Thank you, Dennis. I think
Thanks,
we're done
Dennis.
drilling you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Thank you,
have a good
Dennis.
night. All right, continue old business, tuition reimbursement for Sergeant Young.